What I think would require is for all the central banks around the world to stop artificially supporting the dollar and to allow their own currencies to rise. That would cause the purchasing power to transfer from America to their own citizens, and that would give them the purchasing power to consume their own production. At some point, foreign central banks are going to do that. If they don't, they're going to destroy all the currencies on the planet, and gold will be, trillions. So I think they're going to come to their senses, and they are going to pursue their own interests rather than the interest of Americans.
Okay, so what finally forces their hand in making the right decision that they...
Just reality. At some point you stare into the abyss and you realize, that you don't want to go in there. Thinking of the prospect of having to fund the Obama administration's New Deal, the tens of trillions of dollars that they're going to have to basically give us, and what that's going to do to their own economies, I think the world's going to say, you know what? No, we're out. Count us out. We're not going to buy these bonds anymore. We're going to take the losses we have because we're not going to pile on more. At some point, you make a decision not to throw good money after bad. You can realize that you've made a mistake, and you know what? The cost of propping up the U.S. economy going forward is far greater than the cost of letting it collapse. And they will do it.
And they're feeling that cost. Does that come in the form of runaway inflation in their own economies?
Yes, ultimately they're going to destroy their own economies. Yes, they're going to kill their own currencies. They're going to have to create massive inflation in order to buy up all these bonds. And why? And so the more they do that, so we keep shutting down our factories. We shut down more and more factories. More and more U.S. companies go out of business, which means we produce even less, which means our trade deficit gets bigger and bigger and bigger. In the final analysis, if they take this to the nth degree, right, there won't be a single American who makes anything, right? Well, we'll be 350 million people living off of the rest of the world. And the rest of the world will work all day long in factories for poverty wages and ship all their stuff to us. And that can't be. This is not, the French kingdom. We're not the royalty at Versailles. We can't force the world to live in poverty so that we can live in luxury. It's not going to work. So it's going to end, and it's going to end soon, and it should be obvious that this is falling apart.
Okay, thanks, Peter.
Thank you. The next call is Douglas from Michigan.
Hey, Peter.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, very good. It's an honor to talk to you first, and I'm young, new to the working world. I only have a small savings. I recently put about 20% of it in physical gold, and I'm very worried about inflation and what I have saved kind of evaporating over the next few years. What else do you suggest? Do I buy stock? I only have about $5,000 that I could put in the stock. Do you suggest?
Yeah, it's not a lot of money for stocks. I mean, you might want to just buy some gold or silver. With a small amount of money, it's just good to do something like that. Buy some junk silver coins, you can't really build that big a diversified portfolio with $5,000. Also, I've talked about and I've written about the idea of stocking up on things depending on where you live. Maybe spending $500 or $1,000 on stuff you're going to need that's going to get more expensive. Not big ticket items, but toiletries, shaving cream, razor blades, batteries, things like that. That's going to get more expensive. Certain food items that are non-perishable that you can hang on to. I mean, you might as well buy the stuff now. It's just going to get more expensive. Other things, obviously, bigger ticket things, they're going to get cheaper as people are having to hawk their things, like their stereo equipment or, things like that, used cars. But a lot of stuff that just, that you make up and you use and it goes away, that stuff's going to get more expensive. And, even if the stuff goes up in price over the next year or two by 20 or 30%, that's a huge return on your investment. If you can buy something today at $1 instead of buying it next year at $1.20, that's a 20% return,
Okay. What currencies would you suggest right now? Well,
obviously the only currency right now that's going up is the yen. all the other ones are going down. But I mean, ultimately, I think that's going to change, and I think currencies in Europe like the Swiss franc or the Swedish krona are going to rise. I think the Singapore dollar has the potential to move up a lot, and ultimately, the currencies like the Chinese RMB, could really move up, or the Hong Kong dollar if they're depegged.
Okay. Hey, I got one more thing to ask you. Could you mention the Austrian School of Economics on CNBC sometime? And
well, I talk about Austrian economics when people talk about I know I've mentioned it, although most people that are watching probably won't know what it is. But yeah, I talk about it. All right, thanks for the call.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
The next caller is it James in California? I think so.
Yes. Hi, Peter.
Hey, how are you?
Okay. My question was, I've heard you talk on your show about how what you do may be illegal in 5 years or so.
Yes.
I was curious, if my wife and I do invest through Euro Pacific, is there going to be a warning? I mean, how will we know?
Well, it won't be illegal for you to have an account. What I'm saying would be illegal, or they would put restrictions on it, would be the ability to invest abroad. So right now, let's say somebody sends me $1 million, I can legally take that $1 million and buy stocks anywhere in the world. What might happen when they put in exchange controls is the government might say that an individual American can buy no more than $10,000 per year of foreign stocks. So if you sent me $1 million, I can only take 10,000 of it and invest in something in Europe or Asia. The rest would have to be invested in the U.S. Or if they could do something like impose a tax on buying foreign currencies, and the tax could be 100 or 200%. So, right now, if you send me $1 million, I can turn around and buy you $1 million worth of foreign stocks. But if the government imposes a huge tax on foreign exchange to discourage Americans from investing abroad, somebody might send me $1 million, and I might only be able to buy $300,000 worth of foreign stocks. So it could be very expensive or completely illegal to do this, and it wouldn't be unique. I mean, a lot of countries, when they get into trouble and capital starts to leave the country, they try to stop that capital flight. And instead of trying to go after the reasons why people want to get their money out of the country and changing their behavior, instead they try to go after the symptoms, which is people trying to get out of the country, and they just try to stop them. And so, that's one of the reasons why it's important to do this now, because you might not be able to do it at all later.
Okay, one other question. What about the government confiscating our gold? Will there be any warning to that? Or
I doubt it. I mean, I think if they're going to confiscate it, they're not going to tell you they're thinking about confiscating it because they don't want you to hide it. But that's one of the reasons that we, recommend and sell Perth Mint gold stored over in Australia, because it's not in the country, and I think the government is less likely to get it from you if it's not even in the country. I mean, how can they force you to bring your gold back from Australia and give it to them? But if it's in this country, they can probably take it, especially if you have it in a safety deposit box, because what's probably going to happen if the government makes it illegal to own gold, there's going to be a government official at every bank, and every time any American goes to a safety deposit box, there's going to be a government agent with you to make sure there's no gold in there, and if there is any, they're going to confiscate the gold and put you in jail.
All right. Well, thank you, Peter. I really appreciate all your good work.
Thanks. Thanks a lot for calling.
Okay, bye-bye.
The next caller is John in California.
Hi, Peter.
Hey, John. How are you?
Great. First of all, I'd like to say I did see that video that you were referring to.
Mm-hmm.
And just the arrogance of those guys, the talking so-called experts, is just unbelievable.
And, of course, there's a lot more like that. I remember a couple of times on CNBC, people asked me if I was a communist. When I was talking about problems in our economy, there's some beauty ones. And it's a little unfair to some of those guys on Fox, because they're not the only ones that did that. And to be fair to Ben Stein,